They say you can tell everything about a person by how they treat someone who can do nothing for them. If that's true, then what happened inside Cafe Aria that rainy afternoon revealed more about power and compassion than any headline ever could. The place was elegant. Walnut floors, soft jazz in the background, and polished cutlery that caught the light just right. Nestled in the quiet downtown district of Seattle, Cafe Aria catered to tech executives, politicians, and the kind of clientele who didn't wait for menus. They expected them to already be on the table. And there, at table 12, sat a girl no older than 10, her eyes hidden behind rose-tinted sunglasses. She ran her fingers carefully over the table's edge, searching for something that wasn't there, the Braille menu. Her lips moved silently, as though repeating a script she'd told herself to stay calm. "Mommy will be back soon, Mommy will be back soon," over and over. Behind the counter, 26-year-old Ariana Miles wiped down the espresso machine, her apron still damp from the morning rush. She'd been working at Cafe Aria for just over 2 weeks. Long enough to know who mattered and who didn't in this place, and clearly she didn't. Ariana wasn't born for cafe work. She had a mind for psychology, a partial scholarship to college she had to give up to take care of her younger brother, Marcus, who lost his sight to meningitis when he was 5. Life hadn't been gentle with her, but it had made her observant. That's why, when she noticed the girl, so neatly dressed, so quiet, so still, it wasn't pity that drew her attention. It was instinct. Something was wrong. No child should sit alone like that for nearly 20 minutes, especially not a child who couldn't see and had clearly been told to stay put. "Hey, has anyone taken 12?" she asked, nodding toward the table. Her manager, Rick Daly, didn't even look up from his phone. "That's reserved. VIP. Just wait till Mrs. Langston returns." Ariana's brow furrowed. "It's been a while. The girl looks nervous." Rick sighed like he was being asked to solve world peace. "Look, Ariana, you're still on probation. Don't make this complicated. Ms. Langston doesn't like people touching her daughter." Ms. Langston. That would be Victoria Langston, CEO of Langston Dynamics, billionaire, and notorious perfectionist. Ariana had read about her in magazine profiles, tech awards, the occasional charity gala where she was praised for her visionary leadership, the kind of woman who didn't tolerate disobedience or mediocrity. Just then the girl accidentally tipped over the glass flower vase on the table. Water spilled across the tablecloth, dripping down her dress. She fumbled with napkins, her hands trembling, trying to clean a mess she couldn't see. Ariana didn't hesitate. Ignoring Rick's warning, she walked across the floor with calm determination, fully aware of the silence that fell in her wake. Every pair of eyes in the cafe followed her. A waitress crossing an invisible line. "Hi there," she said gently, crouching beside the girl. "I'm Ariana. I saw the spill. Can I help?" The girl paused, her body tense. "Where's my mom? She's not back yet, but I'm here now and I can clean this up with you. How about that?" The girl nodded faintly. "I'm Lila," she whispered. "I didn't mean to break it." "You didn't break anything," Ariana said as she blotted the water with practiced hands. "And even if you did, that wouldn't be a big deal." "You're lying," Lila said suddenly. Her voice was soft, but steady. "Adults lie to make me feel better." Ariana blinked, then chuckled. "Wow, you're sharp." Lila cracked a small smile. "My mom says I'm too observant for my own good." "Well, your mom might be right about that," Ariana replied. "Are you hungry?" Lila hesitated. She said not to ask for anything till she's back. Ariana glanced at the clock, nearly 5 p.m. "When did she leave?" she asked. "When the clock said 3, Lila replied. 2 hours. 2 hours alone. Ariana felt something coil in her chest, not just anger, but something deeper, a quiet resolve. "How about a hot chocolate?" she said gently. "No one has to know. It's our little secret." When Lila nodded, something shifted. It wasn't just that a child had smiled for the first time in hours, it was that a line had been crossed. And Ariana Miles, the waitress no one noticed, had just become the only person in the room who saw what truly mattered. Ariana returned minutes later with a tray that didn't just hold hot chocolate. It carried a grilled cheese sandwich, warm cookies, and the smallest scoop of whipped cream with cinnamon sprinkled on top. She knew she'd be reprimanded, maybe even fired. But for now, all she cared about was the way Lila's face lit up as her fingers carefully explored each item. "This one's warm and square," Lila said thoughtfully. "Sandwich. Grilled cheese extra crispy on the edges. And this one's soft, with chips. Chocolate chip cookies, baked this morning, trust me. I had to fight a regular for the last batch." Layla laughed. A bright, genuine sound that seemed almost out of place in such a formal space. Customers glanced over, some with curiosity, others with thinly veiled disdain. Ariana didn't care. For the next 15 minutes, they talked about books in Braille, about how rain sounds different on rooftops than on sidewalks, about how Lila wanted to be an astronomer not because she could see stars, but because she could feel them in math and music. "You describe things differently," Lila noted between bites. "The other people here talk like I'm broken. My brother's blind too," Ariana said softly. "I know what it's like when people talk to the label instead of the person." Lila tilted her head. "What's his name?" "Marcus. He's 16, plays piano like he was born with it." "I play too," Lila whispered, "but my mom says I should focus on useful things." That word, useful, hung between them like a shadow. Neither noticed the black Bentley SUV that had pulled up in front of the cafe. Inside, sitting stiffly in the back seat, Victoria Langston stared through the glass. She hadn't expected to see this. She was running late from a board meeting and had assumed Lila would still be quietly waiting. Alone. Instead, there was laughter, smiles, a waitress sitting across the table from her daughter, treating her like, what, a human being? Victoria's lips pressed into a tight line. "Shall I walk you in, ma'am?" her driver asked. "Not yet," she replied coldly. "Wait." Through the glass she watched Ariana guide Lila's hands gently over the cocoa cup, describe the scent of cinnamon, explain the difference between macchiatos and cappuccinos using smell and sound. Victoria didn't blink. When she finally entered, the temperature in the room dropped by 10 degrees. Even the jazz seemed to hush. Rick nearly tripped trying to greet her. "Ms. Langston, I didn't see you arrive. I was just about to—" "Save it," she said, brushing past him. Her stilettos clicked sharply across the floor as she approached table 12. Ariana was helping Lila clean cookie crumbs from her lap. They both looked up. "Miss Miles, is it?" Victoria asked, her voice like chilled glass. Ariana stood, instantly alert. "Yes, ma'am." "You took the liberty of serving my daughter." She was scared, and hungry. Before Victoria could speak again, Lila jumped in. "Mommy! Ariana was really nice. She told me about constellations, and sandwiches shaped like moons." Her face gave away nothing. "How much for the food?" she asked, pulling out a sleek black card case. "Nothing," Ariana replied firmly. "It was on the house." A silence stretched long and brittle. Victoria nodded once, then extended her hand to Lila. "Let's go." As they turned to leave, Lila clutched her mother's hand tightly. "Can we come back tomorrow? Ariana said she'll teach me to tell flavors apart just by smell." Rick appeared beside Ariana the second they stepped outside. "My office, now." Ariana knew what was coming. The voice, the tone, the posture. It all screamed, "You're done here." And maybe she was, but she didn't know. What no one inside that cafe knew was that in the backseat of her Bentley, Victoria Langston was already drafting a text to her assistant. "Get me everything on Ariana Miles by 8 a.m. Background, family, employment, academic history, everything. When a billionaire says everything, it means everything." The next morning, Ariana stared at her eviction notice. Her resignation letter from Cafe Aria still unsigned. Her phone buzzed. It was Marcus. "You okay?" he asked, voice groggy but sweet. "I think I just got fired for helping a kid." Marcus was quiet for a second. "You always said the right thing costs something. Maybe this time it costs a job." Before Ariana could respond, the buzzer rang. "Miss Miles?" A voice crackled from the intercom. "This is Jennifer Kim, legal liaison for Langston Dynamics. Ms. Langston, request your presence for a private meeting. 9:00 a.m. sharp." Ariana's heart froze. The headquarters of Langston Dynamics towered over the city like a monument to ambition. Glass, steel, and silence. Ariana stood in the lobby wearing the best thing she owned, a navy thrift store dress and a borrowed coat. She didn't belong here and everyone knew it. The receptionists barely glanced at her. The elevators were too quiet. The air smelled expensive. 45 floors up, Victoria Langston stood with her back to the city, arms crossed, watching the skyline through floor-to-ceiling windows. "Sit," she said without turning. Ariana obeyed. "You served my daughter when I explicitly instructed staff to wait for my return," Victoria began. Her voice was perfectly even, calculated. "She was hungry," Ariana replied simply. Victoria turned, finally meeting her eyes. "Do you know why I left her alone for nearly 2 hours?" Ariana blinked. "No, ma'am." "To see who would notice." The words hit like a slap. "I wanted to observe how my daughter is treated when no one thinks I'm watching. 17 people passed that table. Employees, customers, your manager. Not one of them stopped. Except you." Ariana's chest tightened. "So, you used her? As bait?" Victoria tilted her head. "Clara knows. It's a game we play." Ariana's fists clenched under the table. "She's not a game piece. She's a child." Victoria ignored the comment. Jennifer, the assistant from the intercom, stepped forward and placed a sleek black folder in front of Ariana. "Compensation for wrongful termination," Victoria said. "I assume this amount should cover your inconvenience." Ariana opened the folder. Her stomach turned. It was more money than she'd ever seen, more zeros than her entire life had contained. She pushed it back without a word. "I'm not for sale." Victoria's expression barely changed, but her voice dropped half a degree colder. "Everyone has a price. Then you've never met someone who's been poor long enough to learn what really matters." Silence stretched across the boardroom like a wire ready to snap. Jennifer looked horrified. No one spoke to Victoria Langston like that, and yet Victoria didn't fire her. Didn't explode. Instead, she studied Ariana like a puzzle that didn't quite fit. "My daughter asked about you," she said finally. "She doesn't do that. Not with tutors, not with therapists, not with me." She slid another folder across the table. "I want you to become Lila's full-time companion, a private mentor. You'd live in our estate, manage her schedule, provide emotional support." "The salary is generous," Ariana hesitated. "Why me?" "Because my daughter can sense insincerity, and you're real." Jennifer handed her a third folder. "We ran a background check. Your grades in behavioral psychology were exceptional. You dropped out to care for your brother. You worked 3 jobs to keep him in a specialized school." Ariana's jaw tightened. "How do you know all this?" "I have resources," Victoria said evenly. "I also know Marcus is a musical prodigy. Wellington Conservatory would be perfect for him." Ariana's heart nearly stopped. The Wellington Conservatory? That was impossible. That was fantasy. That was so far out of reach it bordered on cruel to even mention. "That's emotional blackmail," she whispered. "No," Victoria corrected. "It's business. I'm offering opportunity for both of you." That night, Ariana couldn't sleep. Her mind raced. The offer, the power plays, the money, the promises. The way Lila had smiled at her. So she did what she always did when something felt wrong. She investigated. She started with Victoria's interviews. Perfect smiles, curated philanthropy, stories of triumph. Then she dug deeper. Buried lawsuits, former nannies who sued for emotional abuse and suddenly dropped the cases, former rivals who faced anonymous scandals, stories that disappeared mid-coverage. And then, one line in an archived article. Tech heiress's daughter injured in mysterious accident, details sealed. Ariana leaned in. The accident. 5 years ago. Layla had been blinded in a car crash, driver undisclosed. No charges filed. Police report sealed. One blurry photo captured Victoria, exiting a hospital in tears. Her hands trembled as she clicked open a local forum post. An alleged email leak from Victoria's brother, Gavin Langston. "Vic, the lawyers sealed everything. The driver took the money, the other family settled. But Clara deserves the truth someday. You were texting, she was in the back seat, that's on you." Ariana sat frozen. Victoria had caused the accident, had blinded her own daughter, and used every ounce of her power to erase the trail. And yet she had the audacity to test people using the very child she'd hurt. The next morning, Ariana received a call from Wellington Conservatory. Marcus had been invited to audition, expenses already covered. Victoria wasn't waiting. That same afternoon, Ariana found herself walking the halls of the Langston estate, an ocean of marble and silence. She found Lila in the music room, tracing piano keys with her fingertips. "You came," Lila said softly. Ariana smiled. "Of course I did." But deep down she had made a decision. She wasn't here just to help a little girl. She was here to protect her. Because someone needed to tell the truth. And Ariana Miles wasn't afraid of power. She understood it. Better than Victoria ever would. 3 months passed. The Langston estate, once cold, silent, and patrolled by staff who barely made eye contact, began to change. subtly at first. Then, unmistakably. Lila laughed more, played piano again, walked the gardens with a confidence that hadn't existed before Ariana came. Ariana hadn't just become her companion, she had become her mirror, her defender, her friend. But beneath the laughter, the truth still pulsed, like a fault line waiting to rupture. One morning, while organizing Lila's books, Ariana found a small wooden box hidden behind the closet drawers. Inside was a thumb drive wrapped in a scarf. Lila tilted her head when she heard Ariana pause. "Trevor helped me hide that," she said simply. "Trevor? My uncle. He doesn't come around anymore." That night, when Lila was asleep, Ariana plugged the drive into her laptop. What she saw made her breath catch. Video clips. Lila before the accident, running through a backyard, eyes full of light and mischief. Victoria behind the camera, laughing. And then, the headlines that never made it past the first 24 hours. Langston's CEO involved in crash, daughter critical. There was also an email from Trevor. "Vic, stop punishing yourself by punishing her. Let her try the treatment. She deserves the chance." Treatment? Ariana dug deeper. Through contacts from her old college and forums for medical whistleblowers, she learned the horrifying truth. For 5 years, Victoria had repeatedly denied Lila access to an experimental treatment that could have partially restored her vision. Why? Because if Lila regained her sight, she might remember. She might see her mother as the woman who took everything away. Victoria Langston hadn't just buried the truth. She was actively keeping her daughter in the dark. Literally. 2 weeks later, Victoria announced, "We're attending a meeting with the Foundation for Visually Impaired Children. Lila will accompany me." Something in her tone felt wrong. There was no such meeting listed anywhere. Ariana's instincts screamed. Before they left, she slipped a tracker into Lila's backpack. 3 hours later, the signal pinged from a remote private clinic nearly 70 miles away. Ariana called the only person she could trust, Trevor Langston. "I know what she's doing," Ariana said. Trevor's voice dropped. "She's repeating the evaluations. She does it every year. Hires biased specialists to confirm what she wants to believe. That there's no hope." "But there is hope," Ariana pressed. "Yes," he admitted, "but hope means risk. Hope means truth. And Victoria has lived in fear of both since the crash." They arrived at the clinic just in time. Through the glass, Ariana saw Lila sitting alone in an exam room, while Victoria argued with a doctor outside. "She repeats these tests not to learn anything," Trevor said. "She needs the verdict, that Lila will stay blind." Ariana didn't wait. She pushed the doors open. Victoria spun around. "What are you doing here?" "It's over," Trevor said, stepping beside Ariana. "We have everything. The accident, the suppression, the blocked treatments." "You don't understand," Victoria whispered, her voice cracking. "I can't lose her. If she remembers, if she sees me, she'll hate me." "You're wrong," Ariana said, gently pointing toward Lila, who had quietly opened the door behind them. "She already knows." "I always knew," Lila said softly. "I heard you crying at night. I knew something was wrong. What I never understood was why you wouldn't let me try." Victoria sank to her knees. For the first time, not as a CO, not as a mother with a mask, but as a woman drowning in guilt. Lila reached forward, touching her mother's face, mapping it with gentle fingers. "I wouldn't hate you for the truth," she whispered, "but I do hate the lies." The room went still. The doctor stepped forward. "Miss Lila, the current treatment protocol offers a 60% chance of restoring some vision, but your mother has declined it for 5 years." Lila turned to Ariana. "What would you do?" Ariana didn't hesitate. "It doesn't matter what I'd do. This is your life. Your decision." And with a breath, Lila said the words no one expected. "I want to try." Victoria wept openly, silently. It was the first time Ariana had seen her truly human. 6 months later, on a crisp fall morning, Lila stood beneath the old maple tree in the Langston garden, wearing dark glasses and holding Ariana's hand. "I can see the outline," she said quietly. "It's brown and orange, and it moves in the wind." To most, it would seem like nothing. A shadow, a blur, a flicker of color. To Lila, it was the beginning of a new life. Victoria stood on the porch, holding tea with trembling hands. The public never knew about the clinic. Her empire hadn't crumbled. But something inside her had. Trevor joined her. "You finally stopped running," she nodded, and started seeing. Ariana continued working with Lila, but now also served as the director of the newly rebuilt Langston Foundation for Visual Futures. No longer a PR stunt, but a real force for change. Her brother Marcus dazzled concert halls at Wellington, living the dream she once gave up. One evening, Victoria called her into the study. On the table was a contract. "I want you to run the foundation," Victoria said. "As a full partner, 40% stake, total autonomy." Ariana looked at her long and hard. "Why? Because?" "You saw my daughter when I only saw her blindness," Victoria replied. "You saw truth where I only saw control. And because I finally understand, some people can't be bought, and that's exactly who I want leading this." Weeks later, at Lila's birthday, the Langston mansion filled with laughter. Not investors, but families from the foundation. Lila unveiled a sculpture exhibit, tactile works shaped by sound, touch, and her new perceptions. A child asked Victoria, "Are you blind too?" Victoria knelt and smiled. "I used to be."